When the farmer found her crawling through the desert, her legs bloodied and useless, he thought she was a mirage, a ghost sent by the land itself. Her people had left her behind, calling her broken, unworthy of survival. But he saw something different. What began as an act of mercy would soon become a story the frontier would never forget. The story of how one man's kindness gave a forgotten soul a second chance at life. The desert was a cruel place when the sun rose high enough to burn the world. Heat shimmered off the dunes like liquid fire, and even the wind refused to move. Eli Thompson rode slowly along the ridge, scanning the horizon for the calf that had wandered from his herd that morning. His horse snorted uneasy, its hooves sinking into soft sand. The land was so quiet it felt like the whole earth was holding its breath. Then Eli saw movement, something small, struggling, crawling. He squinted against the glare. It wasn't an animal. It was a person. He kicked his horse forward and rode down the slope. As he drew closer, his stomach turned cold. A woman was dragging herself through the sand, her arms trembling with effort, leaving a faint trail of blood behind her. Her legs lay limp, twisted beneath her torn dress. Her dark hair was matted with dust, her skin cracked from the sun. Eli jumped down from his horse, heart pounding. "Ma'am!" he called out. "Can you hear me?" She flinched and turned her head toward him, eyes full of defiance even through exhaustion. "Stay away," she rasped. "Leave me." Her voice was hoarse, but there was strength in it. Pride, anger, pain. Eli dropped to his knees beside her anyway and uncorked his canteen. "You need water," he said firmly, ignoring her warning. He pressed the metal into her hand. For a long moment she just stared at it, then finally drank, the water spilling down her chin. Her breathing steadied a little, though her hands still shook. "What happened to you?" Eli asked quietly. She didn't answer at first, just looked off toward the horizon where the land stretched empty and merciless. Finally, she said, "My tribe left me. Said I was no longer part of the living world." Her words came out like broken glass. "A horse fell on me. Crushed my legs. They said I couldn't walk, couldn't hunt, couldn't bear the weight of the journey. To them, that meant I was already dead." Eli stared at her, speechless. He'd seen cruelty before. He'd seen men leave each other behind in war, seen neighbors turn their backs on starving families. But this was different. This woman had been abandoned by her own blood. "That ain't right," he muttered. She turned her head toward him, her expression hard and tired. "Right means nothing in the desert," she said. "Only the strong live." Eli slipped his arms under her despite her weak protests. "You're strong enough," he said. "You made it this far." She tried to shove him away, but there was no strength left in her. "Don't," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Don't help me just to feel good about yourself." He looked at her then, really looked, and saw a person barely holding on to life, clinging to pride as her last defense. "This ain't about me," he said softly. "No one deserves to die out here." He lifted her carefully and carried her to his horse, wrapping her in his coat before setting her across the saddle. She didn't speak again, only closed her eyes as they rode toward the fading sun. By the time Eli reached his farmhouse, night had fallen, and the stars shone cold and bright above the plains. He brought her inside and laid her on his old couch near the fire. As the flames grew, she looked at him, confused and wary. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why save me?" Eli stared into the fire for a long time, his face etched with memories. "Because someone once saved me," he said finally, "and I never forgot what it felt like." The flames crackled softly in the hearth, filling the small farmhouse with a faint orange glow. Eli knelt beside the couch, carefully cutting away the torn fabric around the woman's legs. Her injuries were worse than he had feared. The skin was bruised black and blue, the bones bent at unnatural angles. He drew in a slow breath, steadying his hands. He'd seen wounds like these before, back in the war, when men fell under horses or wagons. Most didn't make it through, but this woman had crawled across miles of desert. That counted for something. He poured water into a basin, the cool sound of it breaking the silence. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She hesitated before answering. "Taya." Her voice trembled as though saying her own name hurt more than her body did. Well, Taya, Eli said, dipping a cloth into the water, I'm Eli. You're safe here. Nobody's gonna hurt you. When the cold cloth touched her wounds, she winced, biting back a cry. He worked slowly, cleaning away the sand and blood, his rough hands surprisingly gentle. She watched him warily, as if trying to decide whether to trust him. You live alone? She asked after a while, her voice soft, strained. Eli nodded. Been that way since my wife passed. Just me, the horses, and this old roof. She turned her face toward the fire. That kind of loneliness can drive a man mad. He chuckled under his breath. Maybe it has, he said. Takes a bit of madness to bring home a stranger from the desert. For the first time, she almost smiled, a flicker of warmth in her eyes that faded as quickly as it came. When he finished cleaning her wounds, he wrapped her legs in clean bandages and gave her some bread and warm broth. She ate slowly, each motion careful, deliberate. The room was silent except for the crackle of the fire and the steady rhythm of the rain outside. After a while, her gaze drifted toward the window. They'll forget me, she said softly. My people. They'll say I died on the journey. Maybe that's easier for them. Eli leaned back in his chair, watching the flames dance. People find all kinds of ways to make peace with the things they've done, he said. But what matters is you're still here. And that means you get to decide what happens next. Taya didn't reply. Her eyes shone with the reflection of the fire, distant and unreadable. She looked like someone who had forgotten how to believe in anything. But when Eli stood to stoke the fire, she glanced up and whispered, Thank you. He nodded once quietly and returned to his chair. Outside, the wind had died down, leaving only the low hum of the plains. Eli sat there keeping watch as she drifted into a deep, uneasy sleep. He didn't know why he felt such a pull to protect her. Maybe because she reminded him of the ghosts he could never save. Or maybe because, for the first time in years, he didn't feel quite so alone. As dawn crept over the horizon, a faint light spilled through the window, painting the room in silver. Eli glanced toward Taya and saw her breathing steady, her face peaceful in sleep. He whispered under his breath, You'll be all right, girl. You've got more fight in you than most. But as he looked out the window toward the distant ridges, a shadow of worry crossed his face. The Apache plains stretched far and wide, and if her people had truly left her behind, there might still be those who would come searching, not out of mercy, but to finish what had been started.